Mike Damiani here, and my friend Patrick Morales. Too cool to say his name. And we're here to give you a first take on Konami's upcoming Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, one of the coolest names of all time. We actually got a chance to, both of us got the chance to sit down and play through the show floor demo. And I must say that I actually was quite pleased with what I played.
You know what, I've heard a bunch of mixed things about it. Some people aren't quite on board with it or haven't been able to play it. Yeah, but I'm kind of with you. After I played it, I think it's shaping up to be kind of cool, actually.
At the beginning of the demo, it's a quick tutorial area that actually gets you accustomed to the free-range sword slicing mechanic.
You're basically doing like VR training, like in the Metal Gear games, except it's like a field.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of objects for you to interact with. I mean, they got crates, they got the watermelons, they have silhouettes that pop up that have enemies, and then one's holding hostages, so you can get the precision down. Basically, how it works is you hold down a trigger button to go into kind of that slow-mo sequence.
And I think they call it blade mode, yeah?
Yeah, blade mode was what it was, with the blue kind of effect going on. And then you can either hold the right analog stick in direction and then line up your slice and then let go to actually do the slicing motion. Or you could use two of the face buttons, one to do a horizontal and one to do a vertical slash. And I think that's where you could see like the kind of spammy version of it where people would just like slice really fast and stuff. But I think the game, or at least the demo, showed off parts where you could you needed to be precise, and other parts where you could kind of be a little bit more reckless in your slicing.
Yeah. They have watermelons set up for you, and then you know, crates and like barrels for you to slice up. But really, the thing about it was that you could cut almost anything in the environment. For me, I just walked around and there's a huge pillar supporting some kind of like highway structure.
Yeah, I saw that.
You could cut the pillar, man.
Yeah, you could cut everything. Yeah, the truck there. Yeah, everything, man.
It was a huge structure too, and you could see it kind of sliding off. And it does come into play during certain sequences in the game too, which I like a lot.
Later on in the demo, obviously, I mean, you take on enemies. One quick thing I do want to point out is that there is still a stealth element in this game. One of the cool things I liked about the demo is it showed off that you could be all gung-ho and action-y and approach with Raiden's ninja skills, but being kind of like Ninja, there is stealth involved if you want, and one of them is enemies have the whole visibility thing where if they see you, they like detect you, they call in reinforcements. But if you stay undetected, you can do context-sensitive attacks that take him out, like the one where he leaps into the air and kind of thrusts his sword through them, and then like flips off. And you can sneak up on enemies from behind them and take them out. So there is an option to go through and utilize stealth.
Yeah.
And the demo highlighted those options you could do.
You can stealth, but at the same time, it's obvious that action is definitely the #1 thing about this game. You can see Platinum Games' pedigree shine here because it feels very much like the kind of stylish action game you'd expect from those guys, except it has a different feel. Obviously, it's Raiden. It's not Bayonetta or Dante. And just to go back to what you were talking about with the cut and take mechanic. You guys might remember the trailers where Raiden would sneak up behind a robot and like cut out some kind of weird glowing spinal thing. So that's actually a mechanic in the game. How it works is that if you cut enemies a certain way, for example, if you decapitate them or get them right below the abdomen or maybe right even in half, you can expose vital parts of their circuitry and you can actually rip that out and Raiden will absorb it. And he'll get some kind of buff afterwards. He might be able to take a speed buff, a power buff, or maybe even regain a little bit of life. So I think that's kind of a neat little way of rewarding people for playing judiciously, not just kind of running in there and going gung-ho with the sword and slashing everything up. It's a nice little reward mechanic that is cool.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the enemies seem to be pretty like easy. I mean, they were like, kind of like just cut through them.
That's a demo.
Some of the block, but eventually they did show off that like you can't just like hack and slash your way or button spam through everything.
Yeah.
They had.
I mean, you saw that when you fought the gecko, right?
Yeah. The first kind of I guess mini boss I would call it is you fight one of the geckos in an open environment, and he calls a few soldiers out. Unfortunately, I didn't get my Timeran out, but apparently you could. You had to use the slashing, basically the focus slashing, to take it out. But
I think the way they positioned it, you could beat that guy multiple ways.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, when you tried to attack him with your slashes, he would deflect them, right?
Well, basically, yeah, I just tried using the standard attacks, and it didn't look like he was doing damage. You get too close, he did like sweep kicks and thrust kicks to knock you away. what I would do is I would run away and let him do the, like, he'd leap at me or charge at me. I'd get behind him, and it would prompt me to input a button, and Raiden would leap on it and start like mashing his sword into the top. And
there are a lot of contextual things like that. For me, so there are sub-weapons in the game, and if you run around the arena a little bit, you can find some crates with rockets and rocket launchers and stuff. So I shot one of those into the gecko, and that weakened it enough for me to run up and do the free slice, and it would die.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
The other thing is he shot out that like kind of cord that grabbed you, and if you did the right input, you could like reverse it and basically swing them around and like smash them into a wall. But
yeah, so there are parries in the game.
Yeah, and speaking about this real quick about parries and stuff, some of the more defensive abilities in the game, or at least from the demo, there wasn't any kind of like manual option to dodge or block on command. There was a parry system, but there was a blocking mechanic, but it was context sensitive. Yeah. And then if there was one thing I would say that was kind of a negative for me was the lack of defensive tools at your disposal. But it might be that there's a different way it's worked in there that we just haven't seen yet.
I think their stance on it is that, you know, a good offense is the best defense, because the way that it works with Raiden is if you hold R1 or RB if you're playing on the Xbox, he'll go into this mode called Ninja Run, and what it is that he'll sprint really fast and you can run all over the place, and it's contextual movement. So if you're near a car or like a low barrier, he'll vault over it. Likewise, if he runs alongside some kind of upright structure, he will climb it and then run on top. Stuff like that. So think of it as kind of a mix between the Assassin's Creed free run with like a weird defensive technique. Because if you're also being shot at by soldiers, you could ninja run towards them, and he'll do, you know, an Anakin Skywalker and just deflect all those bullets. So I think that's kind of what they're trying to get at, where you're always emphasized to be on the move, being offensive, and then surviving that way. Again, getting life by cutting things out of people and also deflecting things. So I think that's what they're trying to get at.
All right, and you actually got a little bit further than I did in the demo.
A little bit, yeah.
You got past the gecko battle. So how did it kind of wrap up there?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more after what you experienced, but basically after the gecko battle, you get to fight a helicopter, and they put you in a little arena where there are a bunch of Roman pillars around, and more rocket launchers, obviously. Again, I think this is where the Metal Gear stuff comes in. So here, I think the most direct way of killing the helicopter would be finding a rocket launcher and then shooting it and then waiting for it to come down and then just slash at it. But another cool thing was that every once in a while the helicopters would shoot missiles at you, and you notice it for only a split second, but there's a little prompt that tells you that you could do something at that very moment. And then you come to the realization that if you ninja run towards the missiles during that moment, you can actually run on top of them. And it's very anime style, like very kind of out there, like very Twin Snakes, you know? But so you run on top of the missiles and you can jump on the helicopter, which I found pretty cool. So it was like a real-time quick time event. You know, it wasn't, I don't think it was quite as cheesy, because you know how like when you go into a quick time event, it's like, you know, press X, you know, button mash this, and then you win. Here you kind of have to figure out like what you had to do. So it didn't tell you to free run on top of the missiles, which I thought was cool. So yeah, you take down the helicopter eventually, like yay for Raiden, and then it comes upon a really trolly part, because it cuts to a scene where you're on you're on city streets, and Metal Gear Ray pops up, and this boss meter fills up, but then it shuts down and tells you thanks for playing. So it kind of leaves you hanging there, but overall I think I had a lot of fun with the demo.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it too. I agree with you. I heard mixed things before. Yeah. I tried it out, but I was going in, I was like, I got to get my hands on it before I make any kind of judgment on that. And only minor frustrations with it. And again, it's just a demo, but I like what they're doing with it, and yeah, I want to play more of it, and so.
The only thing that maybe I'm not too sure of is it does take a little while to get used to the free cutting mechanic, just aiming it and then spacing it the right way. Yeah. It's a little difficult at first, but I got used to it.
Yeah, you gotta pay attention. I mean, for me, like I kind of whiffed a few times.
Yeah, me too.
Because there's a line that you see a vertical, a straight line, but you gotta look at the shading. I think that tells you if you're gonna make contact or not. But once you get it down, though, it's so easy to use and it's really fun. So
yeah,
I think that's gonna probably wrap it up, though. So. Be sure to stay tuned to GT. We're going to have more coverage of Metal Gear Rising Revengeance in the coming months, and stay tuned.
My sword is a tool of justice.